Hey, everybody, use our code, the Aquarium Guys podcast, for Blue Crown Aquatics, and you get free shipping. It's like $45 in your pocket. Again, Blue Crown Aquatics, the Aquarium Guy podcast. Get all your nice shrimp and fish.
So if you
And fruit juice.
if you've ever purchased on the other websites, you realize that shipping is the cost. It's not the fish product. You'll find it, fair, reasonable prices, but it costs a lot to get the heat packs, to get the oxygen in the bag, everything working okay. Blue Crown Aquatics is the place to get shrimp, and it's next day shipping.
And it's shipping to your door,
To
not
your
to
door.
the airport.
Right, because no one wants to deal with Schmelta Airlines.
Not Schmelta Airlines, not me. No, thank you.
Never again. You're listening to this. It's going to be the day after Christmas. You want that last minute. I forgot what to get that person for Christmas, and we're meeting at New Year's. BlueCrownAquatics.com. Next day shipping to their door for award-winning shrimp.
Check it out.
Actually, it's more get yourself what you wanted for Christmas. 'Cause
There you
probably
go,
got
even better.
socks.
Right. Turn in, trade those Subway gift cards in, and use some cold hard cash and save some money at Blue Crown Aquatics. Our charity of choice.
Our charity of choice is a guy that we irritate each and every week, and he loves us.
The Ohio Fish Rescue is literally a fish rescue made out of Big Rich and Josh's home. They have over 88,000 gallons, and their entire idea is to give big fish the home they once deserved instead of being purchased at your local Walmart that got closed. Now those pacus really don't fit in that 20-gallon anymore. So don't buy a pacu, and if you do have a fish, certainly give them a call, but they need your love. OhioFishRescue.com. Buy a T-shirt, give him a couple bucks, or his number's on there. Call him and tell him you love him.
Tell him you love him and call late. He loves that.
He does.
We tell him that every week, and people call him late.
And send him Prime.
Send him lots of Prime.
Send him lots of Prime, yeah. He loves that.
All right, let's kick the episode.
Welcome to the Aquarium Guys podcast with your hosts, Jim Colby and Rob Zolson.
All right, guys, welcome to the Aquarium Guys podcast. So this week, with one of our listeners, I got to mess with Jimmy, and I love messing with Jimmy to my core. So we got an email from, I don't normally give people's names out and information.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Robs. Go ahead and just gloat here a little bit.
I guess. So we got an email from Ryan Reynolds.
Ryan Reynolds.
I
was excited.
So
I still am.
he is excited. So I call up Jimmy like, dude, we got an email from Ryan Reynolds. You won't believe this. He apparently listens to the podcast, is a fan, has got some questions. I got to send this over to you. And Jimmy, hook, line, and sinker, bought this. Just cast out, locked it in, reeled it in.
And I said, this is the Ryan Reynolds who was like what, the superhero guy.
Right. Deadpool, right?
Guy, yeah.
Right?
I
I'm
love
like,
him.
oh my God.
That
He's
would've
my
been
second
awesome.
favorite actor.
It was awesome because that's who we got the email from, was Ryan Reynolds.
Absolutely. So I sent over the email, and let me read it to you all. Hey guys, just found your podcast, have consumed all episodes at work and enjoyed them all. I am a bus mechanic at a school and noticed they pulled an aquarium out of the library high school during the summer up until 2 weeks ago. It's been sitting in the maintenance shop in the way of everything, so I finally asked the boss lady what her plans were for it. Before I got the question fully out, she told me to take it home before I throw it in the dumpster. It's a big tank, 60 long, 18 wide, 20 high from the outside measurements. Do you know how many gallons this is? I'm guessing between 80 to 100. I've been reading up and wondering if you could give me some good fish to put in this to make a beautiful stocked, peaceful aquarium tank. It's been many years since I've actually had an aquarium. I've never had one this large. Any help would be amazing. Thanks so much, Ryan Reynolds. So immediately I got cussed out by Jimmy, because I got his hopes up. Thought it was the real Ryan Reynolds. And I'm just saying it really could be the real Ryan Reynolds, all right? We don't know what he does in the side hustle. He could be a bus mechanic.
He could be a bus mechanic, yes.
I'm just saying. So, Ryan Reynolds, if you're listening, we really think your wife is hot.
Yeah. And also I checked out the aquarium dimension is at about 93 and a half gallons is
Right.
what it was at. And but yeah, Rob was trying to tell me that maybe, you filmed Deadpool in the back of a bus. I don't believe him at all, but you never know.
It could have happened, or at least a couple scenes.
Scenes in the back
Maybe
of the
that's
bus.
why he had to be a mechanic, set up the scenes correctly.
Yeah, but we were
You just
excited.
don't know.
That's the closest we've ever come to having a celebrity call us.
Right. I mean,
So we're pretty excited. So thanks again to Ryan Reynolds for that question and email.
and immediately you're like, oh, why couldn't it have been Betty White? Well, she's not going to call us.
Yeah.
All right? Get that out of your head. So if you're looking for some good fish ideas, 90 gallons really provides you a blank slate to build whatever you want. Me, I have 125, and I decided to make it planted. I wanted an ecosystem to help support itself in case my power goes out, so they have a little bit extra time with some oxygen without having water movement. So certainly do your homework. If you're looking for fish, I mean, we can hook you up, but there are great people out there. Find some good lots on Aquabid, but above all else, go to your local fish store. If you have a decent local fish store, they'll give you options, and they'll answer questions direct. And if you don't have one, you can always join us on Discord. It's the bottom of the website, aquariumguyspodcast.com, and we'll be happy to answer your questions. And if you really need fish, we'll certainly hook you up from there, buddy. So again, thanks for the question. And we forgot introductions. I'm your host, Robbie Olson.
And I'm Jim Colby. Where's
And
Adam?
I'm Adam Elmashar.
There he is.
Ta-da. So today, we're super excited. We've been working a long time since we had started the podcast to get, we have this lineup of people that we want on the show eventually. And
Superstars.
we finally nailed a big superstar, right?
A big one.
So today we have Matt from the Amazonas Magazine. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. Pleasure to be here.
So again, we're big fans of Amazonas Magazine. For those that haven't read it or heard of it, shame on you. It is
You need to have it.
You need to have it.
I have everyone.
I do too.
You guys
Fantastic,
collect it.
guys.
They have
Yes.
they have a bookcase where they keep all their issues. And if they loan me an issue, they'll write it down and they'll let me know, hey, you done with it yet?
Yeah.
Hey, you done with it yet?
You still have my shrimp one?
I do.
You do. Okay.
I really do.
I'm glad we did this podcast, so I
had
get that back.
I had to get it, because I've been trying to get a hold of these guys for a while, and I
Yeah.
had to have contact information. But that might just disappear from your collection. You don't know.
Yeah, no, well, if it does, I can go back on Amazonas.com and order a back copy.
I feel like we're ruining all this information that Matt could be giving us in a better
I
form.
know.
So just a quick summary. Amazonas Magazine is the foremost best freshwater magazine, I'd say, in the world. I'm just going to call it. Maybe there's some others out there that do a good job, but this is the best one. So we're happy to have you, buddy. Yeah, we can't wait to start bombarding you with questions.
That's fine.
So I don't have much other news. Did you finally bring that letter?
No, I did
that
not.
You were supposed to.
I still didn't bring my letter. I'll bring my letter next week.
We even talked about the letter in the last podcast we did, and that was a pre-recorded podcast. So how many weeks has it been?
It's
for
been
this
about 6
poor
weeks.
listener?
Yeah.
We're going to send this particular listener a gift and apologies that we didn't get to read it on the air.
Yeah. And then again, too, we got, if for people want to sign up, we are handing out some free bulbs for aquarium bulbs. And we're going to send that out here after the first of the year.
So if I remember correctly, you said you're going to be sending 10 bulbs to 5 different people.
That's right. And the bulbs arrived here this week, and we're going to get everybody signed up, and whoever wants them, we'll send them to you. We'll pick 5 out of whoever sends it in.
So let me guess. When you got them, right, did you just get it local to the door, or did you have to pick them up from Schmelta?
I did not go to Schmelta Airlines. I had them brought in from Florida and brought them to one of my local retailers.
Well, thank goodness, because what would be better than you getting checked at customs just for 5 baggies of bulbs?
Yeah,
that would look real great.
We're not going to talk about that.
No. So, guys, sign up, aquariumguyspodcast.com. Bottom of the website, it'll say Jim's Bulb Giveaway. Give it a click. We just need your name, number, and address, and we will draw. Now, if you're in Canada, we apologize. Customs is terrible, but we probably can actually send it to Australia. We did get a person from Australia that signed up.
Really? They're that bored in Australia. They're listening to us.
Absolutely.
Well,
Apparently, we're entertainment and tell it like it is.
Sounds great.
So, sorry to Canadians, but we do love you Australians, apparently.
Yeah.
So what is that? Ireland, Canada, Australia. There's so many countries popping up, but we're really prominent in Ireland, and we will even make an exception for you guys. So no matter where you're at, try to sign up. Doesn't necessarily mean you're out of the drawing.
Yeah, we'll have to do our research before we start sending stuff out.
Indeed. We have to do our homework, otherwise they'll really have to put Jim on a list.
Yeah, I've already been on a list.
You still are on the list.
Hey.
Everything in time. All right, guys. So just a quick reminder, go to our Facebook, ask us questions, Discord. We have our email address on the website and our telephone number, and we'll happily play your question over the air. We'd love that. We fixed it, I swear. Certainly find that at the bottom of our website. And if you're so inclined, you want to support the channel, number one, support our sponsors first, but you can also donate to us either one time or monthly right on the bottom of our website as well. We have a tip jar, and thank you for those that have. It's fantastic to have such people that care about our podcast and really are supporting us to thrive.
And we've been taking that money and we've just been reinvesting and buying in new equipment so we have a better quality podcast for you guys.
We did a test a YouTube stream. We have a green screen, and I'm bound and determined to finally get Jimmy in a green screen suit.
You're not going to get me in a green screen suit.
I come on, I can try.
I look like a large dill pickles what I look like.
But no one will see it. It'll be just see through. See.
No.
Baby steps, guys. We'll get there. At least we're going to do live stream soon. But thanks again for your support. And let's dive right in, man. I've been looking forward to this interview. Matt, how you doing tonight, buddy?
It's been a long day. We just came off of getting Coral Magazine sent to the printer, and we turn around and we focus on the next issue of Amazonas.
So, Matt, what is your responsibilities for Amazonas and your other projects?
Well, okay, so up until last year, Amazonas was published by Reef to Rainforest Media, which is based out of Vermont, and it's headed up by James Lawrence and Judy Ballard. They took over Coral Magazine, I want to say back in 2009. Before that, they had been publishing a lot of books. So you'll also see Microcosm as one of their imprints. So a lot of aquarium books that have come through, if you look, they're Reef to Rainforest Media or Microcosm Publishing. That's the company behind Coral. Coral originates out of Germany, in NTV, so it actually starts as a German publication. And I want to say it was 2010, Marine Aquarium Conference of North America. I want to say it was down in Florida. When James Lawrence approached me, I was already writing for Coral and was a senior editor for Coral, I think, at that time, or became one thereafter. And he showed me this German freshwater aquarium magazine, and I couldn't read it, but it said Amazonas, and I just looked at it and said, "This is amazing. This is beautiful." And he said, "What do you think?" I said, "I think if you're going to do this, this is the freshwater version of Coral. Yes, you should do this." Towards the end of 2011, I was continuing to work with James a little bit on Coral, but it was not my full-time or even part-time job. It was just I wrote an article once in a while, maybe proof an article once in a while, just a casual relationship. I wound up getting laid off. I was a Flash developer, and this is about the time when Flash and Steve Jobs, that we were talking about it before the show. This is about the time that Adobe kind of took a hit and said, "Okay, we concede. The days of Flash are kind of coming to an end." James heard I was freshly unemployed and said, "Hey, you got to come work for me and help me launch Amazonas?" And of course I did. So back the first issue was the February 2012 issue, which landed December of 2011. I've been with two magazines as my primary source of income since that time. I am kind of a jack of all trades for the publications. Done most parts of the business at one point or another. I would say the only thing I really haven't done is like ad sales. I have the capabilities of doing layout, although that's not what I do. These days, I'm one of the 3 publishing partners of Amazonas. So as I mentioned, we took over just a little over a year ago. And so myself, Stefan Tanner, who people may know from Swiss Tropicals, and Mike Tuccinardi, we are the 3 publishing partners behind Amazonas now. A lot of the staff is exactly the same staff that still also produces Coral. And I'm one of the unique people in that I still also work on Coral with James and Judy and Reef to Rainforest. So basically, we took over the freshwater publication, freed James and Judy up to pursue some other things they wanted to pursue in terms of book projects and things like that. To get to I give you a huge history there, but to get to the meat of what I currently do, right now I have a to-do list a mile long. It's just a constant state of triage. So I need to look at all the new incoming, freshly translated English edition that for the next issue for the March-April. That's what we're looking at right now. So I'll proof that, getting images together to fill gaps we haven't filled. Also working on trying to get another newsletter out this week. I was just tweaking our AdWords advertising, given that we're in the holiday season and we're trying to, obviously we want to get gift subscription purchases in front of people, really easy gift. No one's going to return Amazonas magazine. It's not like I'm going to give you, I found this little red-bellied fish at the store I thought it would be good for your tank. None of that kind of stuff. So no one's going to complain about or have a problem with a magazine subscription for the holidays. So that's pretty much. I also run all the social media for the publications. I have too many hats, but that's the way I like it. So
that's a lot to take in.
Holy cow!
Your official title.
Yeah. So when do you sleep? That's my first question.
So your official title? Sleep.
3 to 9. That's when I sleep.
See, that sounds like a Jimmy schedule.
Yeah, no kidding. My lord. And Matt, you're located up in Duluth, correct?
Yeah, we're up here in Duluth, Minnesota, and then Stefan's just down in Rochester, and then Mike and his wife Susan are over in Boulder, Colorado right now, and then the rest of the team is pretty much in Vermont.
Okay, I just did some business with Stefan and ordered some Matten filters for my shrimp tanks.
Yeah.
Through Swiss Tropicals.
Yeah. Yes, he's also one of the publishing partners of Amazonas.
Fantastic. So your title here is a bit of everything. You said jack of all trades. So senior editor, associate publisher, and part owner?
Well, associate publisher is my title with Reef to Rainforest and Coral Magazine, but I am a publishing partner for Amazonas.
Gotcha. And so part owner would be correct then for Amazonas.
Yeah, that's the same thing. Publishing partner, part owner. Yeah.
Fantastic.
I can drop the hammer if I need to.
Nope, that can't put that out. That fish isn't beautiful enough. Do it again.
So how big is your business cards? I'm just kind of wondering with all those hats that you wear.
I actually don't need to have a business card, so I don't have one.
All he has left is the Flash developer business cards. If you want one,
I just hand you a copy of the magazine and say, "Here you go."
Are you going to sign it for me?
Sure.
Then I'll sell it at Aquabid later. Make some money.
You will. You would.
I think that would degrade it. I think you want an unsigned copy.
Oh, okay. I just wondered.
So the magazine, again, you said started officially like beginning of 2012, and has been
the English edition. The English edition,
as
was
we know
launched
it,
in
right?
2012. Yeah.
So
it starts. There's actually, because it's published in Germany by NTV in German. It's been going for years before the English edition started. So we still have people who will write in and say, "Hey, are you ever going to publish this article that was printed in German in 2006 or something?" The answer is probably no, but it's possible. There's this huge archive of German content that will probably never see the light of day in English, and we pretty much try to mirror the German issue to some extent, but then we also have our own homegrown content that goes in. Whether it's Coral or Amazonas, they're not carbon copies of the German edition. They're standalone, their own thing. And sometimes something that we produce here in the United States will actually go into a future version of a German one. So then we'll get a German issue back a couple issues later and say, well, that's our articles. We already ran that. That's out. They're not carbon copies.
So then when did the German version start?
I don't know the answer to that.
I'm on your website, and it shows here that 2005 is when they have some history stamp. But again, that just shows how long you guys have been churning through. So you guys still, you said you're not a carbon copy, but you still start with the content in German and then put in your homegrown content.
Yes.
That's fantastic. See, all good things come from Germany, like Volkswagen Beetles and great food, beer.
Beer. How about beer?
Beer. We'll pick beer.
Pick beer.
There's some good German wine too.
Really? How do
Yes.
how do I not know about that?
Rieslings, Gewürztraminer. They're good white wines.
I feel like you've
Kinda
traveled to
sweet.
Germany quite enough. So besides Oktoberfest, what just to give it an array, again, the focus of the magazine is completely freshwater. So each issue, it doesn't necessarily have a theme, but you certainly have your chosen like front page articles. And on every copy of Amazonas magazine, if you're to look at it, you'll see the hot topic or front page article, and you'll see everything like I'm just reading a couple here: sweet cories, new rainbows, and it really goes into expert depth dives of either the species, whatever the topic would, from harvesting. It covers everything freshwater. So I gotta say, what's some of your favorite articles that you've done since you worked there, or at least helped work with?
Well, sure. I not to toot my own horn, but when we did the Angels Rising issue, I looked at the content that we had. I've got two that I'll pull out, and they're personal to me, so they come to mind right away. But the Angels Rising issue, I looked at the content, and at the time I was actively breeding freshwater angelfish and wholesaling them, and was really getting into the genetics quite deeply, and said, we need to cover this. I was a member of the Angelfish Society. It was Philippine blue. The genes were just really being nailed down. The Bulgarian green gene had just come out, and I said, we need to put this in the magazine. And so at the time, I'm just a senior editor. It's not and an associate publisher, so I can make a suggestion. And James gave me the green light, and I went head over heels into the genetics of angelfish. That was a really good contrast with, I think we have an article by Heiko Blair in that issue about the wild diversity of Terraphyllum, an article on breeding Altums in that issue. I mean, that's still an extremely popular back issue.
I was going to say that's what blew me away was the Ultims on that particular issue, because I used to breed a lot of angels myself, and I really enjoyed the heck out of that particular issue.
Yeah, going to the whole way Amazonas kind of works is we do have that feature topic, and that's going to be a good chunk of the issue is going to be at least 3 articles dedicated to that title topic. So the January, February one this time, our feature is Spectacular South America. That's very open-ended, but Angels Rising was very specific. It was angelfish. Another one that I think will really be of interest to all the folks here in Minnesota is the 2 beta issues that kind of appeared back to back, because the second, I want to say it was the first one, it has the top-down shot of a white Dumbo Delta cover. And that issue talks about the beta triangle down in the Twin Cities, the Hmong Run beta shops, the specialty shops that were only doing betas down in St. Paul, and just in this little triangle of a couple square miles are these 3 specialty shops that were there at the time. And it was really a unique place and a unique time. And to be able to put that out to an international audience was really, really exciting and a lot of fun. So that's another issue that to me is really near and dear to my heart. But that's partially because there's a lot of me and what was important to me in those particular issues.
In fact, right now, if you go down to Minneapolis, St. Paul, there's still an array of fish shops that you can go search. And we've been to Tame Waters. There's a bunch of them, and they still have a mass selection of betas. And people come in with pens trying to see how they flare. Mm-hmm. They count the scales in the body, and it's still a huge community there. So it's not something that completely went away by any means.
No, it's just it's hard to make those small businesses work. I mean, they were doing quite well, and I think Beta World is still there, and Kuyang is still transshipping, and then Tamed Aquatics took over the Minnesota Beta Shop, which was a really fantastic shop. I'm not sure what's happened with BJ right now, but yeah, I mean, there's still that community is still there. Shops change hands, focuses change, and but betas, they're still. That's not going to go away. It's a part of it is the cultural aspect of keeping betas within the Hmong community. So that's not going anywhere.
Very, very fortunate to have all these different shops down in that Minneapolis area, like we talked about earlier. We've spent quite a bit of time down there. I got turned on by several of the different betta species which I have never carried for myself. We came back and we brought in some Hellboy placots and some different koi bettas, which I've never carried before. And they're more of a high-end betta, and I didn't think that my customers would pay that extra money for it. But by gosh, we have been surprised and very happy with the sales that we've seen with these different bettas that people haven't seen up here in northern Minnesota.
I think when people see a quality fish, they understand, especially if they're only used to seeing just a general run-of-the-mill fish. I mean, I used to wholesale guppies to some of the local shops up here. World of Fish right here in Duluth, I would bring in guppies that they would retail for, I want to say, $5 or $6, and they would put them in a tank right above the regular run-of-the-mill Asian import or Florida farm-bred guppies that were $3 each. And they would sell the premium, locally raised variety. They would outsell those 3 to 1, and their survivability was higher. So,
much higher.
People, I think, especially in the independent pet store environment, if people are only used to seeing what's in a box store or a chain store, and they come in contact with higher end fish, and they're familiar with the run-of-the-mill stuff, they get it. If you just showed it to them and no one had ever shown them anything else, they wouldn't understand. I think it takes a little time to appreciate that. But once you do, it makes good sense for everyone.
Yeah, I remember when the pastel colored guppies first came out, the soft yellows and the soft pinks, almost Easter egg like colors. Mm-hmm. I would bring those in and put them right next to the Sri Lanka guppies, the Florida guppies, and I could sell them 10 to 1 any day of the week. And those were locally bred by somebody here up in northern Minnesota. And they were the most beautiful guppies, and the guy just lost interest and sold all his stock. And to this day, I've never found anything to really replace it. But it's fun to see these different varieties that people come up with and spend years on working.
Mm-hmm. So what I like to go for is you have a very unique place in Amazonas Magazine. And what we'd like to do in the future is, we want some future podcasts, and we'd love to talk to, the people that are really getting these stories and some of the other people in your office, because each person in the office has done different stories, done different pieces, and has a different perspective. And a magazine that strictly does freshwater fish for this many years, there's clearly a bunch of different stories, but I think that you come from a different perspective of, you've been here from essentially the English version's beginning. And I'd love to know and tell our listeners, how does the magazine get made from start to finish? If we could follow that bouncing ball, really, really talk about that. So you guys release your magazine every other month, correct?
Yes, 6 times a year. And it comes as German text. It comes as a dump of German digital files. The text is pulled out, it's translated, and then that gets handed over to our executive editor, Ann Whitman, who goes through all that text initially and starts to make her calls on which stories are good, which ones we don't like, and of course flagging anyone that's already one that we did. I think that happens more on the choral side of things, but from there, that text gets sent out for review, and that's where we are right now in the March-April issue. So I kind of alluded to that. So we have a new deputy executive editor, Courtney Tobler, and myself. We will usually look through and edit and proof the English texts, give our own opinions and comments and feedback. From there, we kind of make the final map of this is what the issue is going to be. It goes into production, basically, which is bringing on the art department. There's three people who do that. They will create the layout for the magazine and where the article is going to appear, lay out the text, lay out the images, and then we have another round of review where we're looking at PDF files of the layouts and, once again, catching mistakes, making comments on the layout, proofing the entire thing again. And then each article will sit in its review phase for as long as it needs. So if we might go back and forth on an article 5 times to get it perfect the way we want it. Other times, one and done. From there, while that's happening, all the advertising is being placed in the magazine. Mike has a lot to do with that, and Susan does as well. We will start some of our marketing efforts as far as hey, we know when we're going to generate our mailing list that's going to be delivered for mailing out the issue. So we've gotten in a good habit of saying, if you want to get the issue that's coming, here's what's going to be in it. This is the last date you can subscribe, and that will be the issue you get after that. So, for example, anyone buying a gift subscription right now, you're not going to get January, February. That ship sailed. Those issues landed early December here in the U.S. You'll get it in the digital version, but the print subscriptions are going to start with March-April's issue. At some point, when the deadline hits, hopefully we're all comfortable and happy. It gets uploaded to the printer. They look it over. It gets printed. It gets packaged. It gets mailed out. They also produce the digital version of the magazine, and that gets loaded into the digital reader and goes live a little bit. We changed our scheduling. We felt that if you're a print subscriber, you should get your magazine before the digital version comes. So we just changed our scheduling. And so I want to say the digital edition of the Spectacular South America went live maybe last week. I want to say about a week ago. International subscribers, because it's all postal service mailing, people in Australia probably still haven't gotten their copies yet. I think it takes almost a month for them to get there. The Canadians should have their copies now, but we have subscribers all over the world. And then, of course, if you're a digital subscriber, you're going to get a digital edition every 2 months. It's basically you have both the looking at the magazine as if it was just laid out in front of you, but there's also a mobile-friendly flowing layout where it's just inline images and texts. So you have many different ways to consume the content that's in the magazine.
So a couple more.
And then
I apologize.
We turn around and we do it all. Well, no, just say we turn around and we do it all again.
Rinse and repeat.
Pretty much every 2 months. It's a 2-month cycle. And then Coral is positioned opposite that. So for someone who works on both magazines, it's a monthly cycle. Like I said, I just finished putting the last Coral with the team. It got sent to the printer on Thursday, and it will arrive early January for everyone. We're working on Amazonas, and it kind of jumped back and forth. The design teams have their cycles. They're on a 12-month cycle or a monthly cycle. So.
And I was just real curious, where do you mail them out of? I mean, do they come out of Minnesota? Or are they mailed out of somewhere centralized? And the reason I ask...
they come from the printer, which I believe is based on the East Coast.
Okay, because Adam is in southern Minnesota. I'm in northern Minnesota. Adam usually gets his magazine about 2 weeks before I get mine.
Are you bitter?
Well, Adam
Yeah,
calls.
he is.
Adam calls and he goes, "Hey, did you get the new Amazonas?" And I go, "No."
And then he spoils it for
He
you
does.
like a
He's-
bad movie fan?
He is. He's a terrible movie fan.
Shame on you, Adam.
You know, that's the postal service. I mean, it's crazy here in Duluth. All our mail, even if it's just local, if I'm sending a postcard to my neighbor, it goes down to St. Paul and then comes back up here. So it's the vagaries of the postal system.
That's the government at work for you.
That's why Dad Tax is around.
Exactly.
You're so bitter. Now I know that when you get Amazonas Magazine, there's a smile on your face. It's relief that you ignored Adam for like 4 or 5 days.
Exactly. And the one thing I have noticed is like the digital copy. There seems to be more information in the digital copy that's not in the paper copy. Is that true, or am I just drunk all the time?
I don't know. Is the beer good there?
Yeah, the beer is excellent here, and it's cold because it's right now. It's 15 below zero.
Yep. No,
Which is probably
they
a
are
nice
carbon
day in
copies
Duluth.
of it. They're carbon copies of each other. Excuse me. The digital edition is literally pulled straight from the print files, so it's the same thing.
I was about to say, is digital really better? Is that what you're finally
Well,
saying,
what
Jimmy?
I'm finding is I'll find videos and stuff on there. Links to videos and different things. And of course,
Well, so we'll have links in the magazine, but you have to you can't just touch the printed page and
Hey,
boom, there goes your web
I'm
browser.
like
that
a-
does not stop him from trying. Trust me.
I sit there and touch the magazine and nothing happens, and I'm like a monkey with a typewriter. I'm just not real good.
So
So no, all the advertising in the digital edition is linked to the advertiser websites, and we'll put supplemental content like references. A lot of our articles we get may have references.
So
and we're really getting
supplemental.
that.
You said supplemental.
Yeah,
so I wasn't
we'll put
crazy.
supplemental stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
No, that will live. That currently lives usually either on AmazonasMagazine.com. I have a lot of big projects since we took over the magazine, and the one that's still waiting is eventually Coral Magazine and Amazonas Magazine online content will be in each brand's website instead of Reef to Rainforest. So we're all friends. We still have all the Amazonas digital content that's separate from the magazine. The email newsletters, all that stuff still points to Reef to Rainforest at this point. I mean, they're sister publications. We're always going to have some connection.
Right.
So
how many subscribers do you have to Amazonas?
several thousand. I would have to pull up the exact number, but I know it's in the thousands, several thousand.
see, it's so confidential. He'll have to kill you.
You have to kill me dead. Yeah.
Right.
So how many countries are you sending to?
I don't know the answer to that one either.
So
But
I have
maybe
this one.
Maybe one of my other friends can. One of my other associates.
Is your
can give
wife
you
there?
the
Can I
answer
talk to her? Maybe she knows.
So I did
You might talk in your sleep, but I might be able to find out.
I did a touch of homework, and on you go to AmazonasMagazine.com. They have an entire About Us section, and I believe, I'm just pulling it up here again, I think it said over 100 countries.
I believe that.
So a couple questions. Number one, because listeners are going to be listening to this December 26th, that's when it's going to be starting, how can they sign up for these, end-of-the-year specials or Christmas specials? When does that promo end?
Oh, we don't have any promos. We did our.
It's full price all day long.
Well, it's still a gift, is what you're saying. You can
Well,
buy it for a friend.
Okay, so I can't get into the. Well, I can't.
Go ahead.
Pretty much. You have your cover price is. It's up. It's $9.99 now. That means I have to update some numbers.
You know what? You just got a
so-
raise. Congratulations.
No.
I tried.
Oh no, I'm sorry. That's the Canadian price. My bad. It's still $7.99. I'm sorry to freak
Oh.
everyone out.
Cancel the swimming pool,
so,
kids.
So it's if you're buying 6 issues a year at $8, it's $48. Well, a subscription is $29. That's your discount. Because knowing what the magazine actually costs to produce, especially with the quality of the print that we're using,
Glossy stock.
It's all elemental chloride free. It's a Sustainable Forestry Initiative certified stock. The sleeves that they're mailed in are recyclable with any other plastic bag recycling.
Did not know that.
It's as low of a footprint as we can have to produce as high of a quality product as we possibly can put out there, short of making it a hardbound book. So
That's fantastic. I mean, I think you guys should hang your hat on that. That is good advertising right there. You've heard it, people, that they are trying to do a low carbon footprint.
You can go to AmazonasMagazine.com and subscribe, and you can purchase, if you're looking for that, after the fact Christmas gift for someone, you can purchase them an entire year. And what will that set you back?
Single year subscription's $29. That includes print and digital access. It's interesting. Internationally, we still send a lot of print internationally, but someone who's looking, the shipping costs on an international subscription are very substantial. It's a lot higher than if you're here in the U.S. But you can get a digital subscription currently for $15 a year, and I think if it's a 3-year, it's like $36 or something. Or no,
Yeah,
not,
I do the
don't-
3 years.
Yeah, I mean, the 3 years you can get. So we used to do several years ago. Amazonas used to have an annual back issue sale. We just had ours basically the month of November, leading into the holiday season, and the back issues were $8 instead of $10. But we used to several years ago do a $5 back issue sale. Well, the price of print has gone up. Price of postage has gone up. $5 just doesn't work anymore. But if you still want to get a copy of Amazonas for less than $5, subscribing is the way to do it. There's no shipping costs, and it's delivered to your door. 3-year subscription, I don't have it in front of me, but it's very affordable compared to a lot of the other things we purchase these days. So, and you can always just go digital only, and it's even less.
And getting a subscription is fantastic, so you don't have to steal your friend's magazine. Rob,
Stop
That's
looking
right.
at me, all right? I have the
Rob's-
digital version. I just wanted the print.
Yeah.
all right? Come on now.
I hear you.
Another perspective, you walked us through how the magazine gets made, but the couple pieces that are left out was the amount of photography you guys have to go through. Who in the chain does that, or does it just come from the exposés that are trying to research the information, or do you have set photographers that you send around the world?
No. It's generally the way both magazines work. Let's just say one of you guys wanted to write something for us. You would have to furnish your photography. It's very rare at this point that anyone can get into any of the aquarium magazines to publish anything if you don't have photography supporting your own work. So a lot of times now I'll get someone who will say, hey, I'm interested in writing for Amazonas. And I had one person who wrote in recently and said, here's my blog, here's some stuff. And I just looked through everything and said, number one thing you need to do is become a better photographer. And it's harsh but honest criticism, especially since, as you guys have heard, Amazonas starts out as a full magazine. We don't have to put in anything homegrown in theory. So the barrier, the level, the bar, if you will, to get into either Coral or Amazonas is incredibly high because you're competing against content that we already paid for. That came from Germany.
You got to beat the Germans.
Yeah, and,
and
professionals, people that do it every day.
beat the Germans. I like that. Although I don't know, Stefan's Swiss, he might not like that.
He might not.
Challenge accepted.
So the photography tends to come along with the article content, whether it's from Germany, whether it's homegrown. If you're writing a story on breeding a fish and you can't even show me photos of you doing it, how are you the expert that should be writing this article? You might not have the best photos, but we have really, really long contributor guidelines that are put out there on the website for people who are interested to know what they need. And really, your photography has to be high resolution. Our minimum pixel width is 3,000, and it has to be tack sharp, can't be blurry. And photography makes or breaks an article. There is some good content that's come across my desk since 2011 that I've had to say, this is great, but if you don't have photos, there's nothing I can do with this. We do have access, obviously, to stock photography, photographers that we work with who just have large libraries of fish that they've shot. If we're looking for a better picture than the one we got, we might ask around. That's kind of how photography works. Usually it comes with the article.
You're talking about photography, and for the average person listening, I mean, you might have to take 75 photos of that fish before you get one that's usable. I'm not saying
good.
I'm not saying great. I'm saying usable. It's just amazing how much time you'll spend on photographing this. And I want to tell you a quick story too, Matt. So
Sure.
we buy some stock from Seagrass Farms, and
Sure.
they say to me every time that goddamn Amazonas, every time they put a picture of a cool fish, I get 100 phone calls on frickin' Monday going, hey, I want that fish that's in Amazonas. She goes, I just want to strangle those guys because they always find the best looking fish. They take the best pictures, and then people expect me to pull it out of my hat, It's just hilarious.
Well, it's interesting though because that kind of just speaks to the relevancy of something like a print publication.
Absolutely.
I look at it. I remember when we talked about taking over the magazines the first time that subject was broached with my wife, and she looked at me and she said, "But isn't print dying?" And it's like, not really. It's evolving. It's just we're in this world where, I mean, you guys mentioned the type of content that's in Amazonas and how deep it goes, and part of that is because I should never have to publish excuse me, I should never have to publish a how to set up your first aquarium article in Amazonas. That information is ubiquitous. It's everywhere. That's not what we're about. No one needs to pay for that anymore. We want to give you something of value that you're not going to find, that was curated by experts, that was giving you something that's new and different. I don't want to rehash the same 10 reader emails over and over again. So it's a little bit different. And I think having the feature focus, back when I was a reader of Coral, I would get an issue of Coral, and I remember one in particular I got was the Gorgonian issue. And I looked at the Gorgonian issue, and I said, I don't keep Gorgonians. What do I need this for? And I probably flipped through it, and I put it on the shelf, and that was the end of it. I want to say maybe 5-6 years later, I had it in my head that I was going to set up a Gorgonian tank, a Caribbean biotope tank. I pulled that Gorgonian issue off the shelf and read it cover to cover. So having that library over time, it builds up that reference library right at your fingertips.
I'll tell you, I've abused Jimmy's library quite a few times. I'll get some whiptail I've never seen in that someone donated or someone's looking for, and I'm trying to find more information on it. They're trying to figure out what pH. And like, hey, Jimmy, you got an episode on this? And he's like, yes, but I need it back in a week. I'm watching you. And then he hands it over. I read it cover to cover.
He has to sign a contract to bring it back. See,
we have a back issue shop, and it would be mailed from Minnesota, so it would get there in like a couple days.
So what you're saying is, Robbie, don't be a cheap ass and get yourself some
Spend
episodes.
$10 and buy the copy already.
Exactly.
Or check the digital archive. I mean, it's we don't have all the issues in there currently, but we just restored 2017. It was a gigantic expense when we upgraded the digital platform. The decision was made a few years back that we would not pull up all the back issues, but we have 2017, 2018, 2019, and the first issue of 2020 in the digital archive that come with your digital access. So maybe you don't have to rate his shelf.
Yeah, stay out of my house, Robbie.
I like the print. I like having that tangible magazine in my hand. Of course, now I've read the magazine at least 3 times cover to cover before I ever get my copy, so I don't actually ever look at it. But
so he's old school like me, Robs. I like having the magazine I can refer to. I like buying old records, so you can look at the front of the album and the back of the album, and you can see. And you're more of a young punk who gives me crap about reading the Sunday newspaper because I'm killing trees.
Yeah, but you were also trying to message a family member tapping this button downstairs that made a click noise. It was real weird.
Shut up.
Beep, 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 beep.
Oh, you're talking about...
Was it telegraph? I don't remember what it was.
My telegraph at home. Yeah,
you could definitely click that out. But
see, these guys are. I'm the old guy in the podcast. I'm in my 50s, and these guys don't even know what a phone booth is. And
Superman gets naked in them.
No, he doesn't get naked in them.
Maybe not on TV, but we all know what happens.
Yeah. But things go in droves and stuff, and now look at albums are gone for a long time, and now albums are coming back, and I think people really want to have that hard copy in their hand. I personally just love it, because what happens when the lights go out and you can't giggle it on your internet? And
by the way, I want to pause you there. The last podcast we were editing, you literally said "giggle it on your inner tubes."
Yeah, that's
we're making a T-shirt out of that. Yeah. By the way.
So that whole thing, that's a standing joke amongst all of our friends. One of our friends had way too much to drink, and she says something just so oblivious, and we're all kind of looking at her, and she goes, well, giggle that on your inner tube. And we all like, what the heck was she just saying? So that's been a standing thing that we've been talking about for years, actually. So
all right, so to get say I'm a new user and I love Amazonas Magazine as much as I do, and I want to dedicate a small bookshelf and get all the copies I can. Do you guys have like a purchase every edition special?
No, but I bet I could put one together.
Oh, see, just contact him.
I don't know.
Contact Matt at Amazonas, and he'll hook you up.
$1 million, yes.
I recommend having that.
It's not a bad idea. If nothing else, just to click once and get every issue. We just have to update it every time we add a new issue.
There we go. So go to Amazonas Magazine, promo code Aquarium Guys, and you can buy every issue.
There you go.
At once.
I gotta run that by a couple other people first.
Oh.
All right, so give it 2 weeks after the podcast. We'll
no guts, no glory.
We'll fast track this, guys. We'll keep you up to date. Just listen to the podcasts.
So one of my very favorite issues was the Zebra Plico, the L44 issue.
L46.
L46?
Yeah, that's a true Zebra Plico.
Ah. I was close.
And for those that are listening that, maybe a little bit more beginner in the podcast, Plecos are identified by an L series. There are so many variations, colors, shapes, and sizes of Plecos that they just got like, well, we're not going to come up with creative names, so they're just an L and a number system. And that number system has gone crazy. It is 4 digits deep, and there are so many Plecos still being identified today.
Thanks, guys. That
Do
was great.
continue.
That was
We get questions after this, and I'm the one that has to deal with the repercussions. Thank you, Jimmy.
Repercussions, yeah. I hope somebody punches you in the throat. So
they can't giggle that one on their inner tube.
That one has a name. That's Hypancistris zebra.
Yep.
So.
And so who came up with that? Was that something that you stole from the Germans?
Dots, I believe, but that's a better question for Stefan. He's a catfish expert. Excuse me.
Because that was a fantastic issue.
He's a catfish expert. My expertise is, as I mentioned, jack of all trades. So actually, I'm probably better known in the aquarium world for breeding marine fish than anything I've done on the freshwater side of things.
I actually went to one of your when you were at the Minnesota down in the cities here. I showed up to one of you had some friends from Chicago. This was like your first. This was a few years ago.
Was it the Aquarium Society, or where was this?
No, it was a saltwater and reef thing.
TC Mass, Twin Cities Marine Aquarium Society.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was very impressed. I mean, the amount of I like breeding everything, but that is
this is from a father of 4 who says he likes breeding everything.
It's interesting because I don't know if all of you guys have spent time in the aquarium club circuit, but I grew up in the fish clubs, like Suburban Aquarium Society in Chicago and the GCCA and Chicagoland Marine Aquarium Society, and I remember how important and motivating the Breeders' Award programs were, and how so much a staple of the freshwater hobby is breeding. And as I evolved as a saltwater hobbyist, it was like, this really isn't there. This is still the final frontier, if you will. Man, that was just so alluring to go do things that no one had ever done, or try to do things that no one had ever done. So it's very seductive side of fish keeping. But at the end of the day, I don't care if it has salt in the water or not. It's a fish. I'm interested.
So what is the most notorious thing or thing that really marks you? You said saltwater, but there's got to be like that one niche. Every guy's got that favorite thing that they keep on their mantle at home. Like you were the one person that bred this species or accomplished this. What is your pride and joy?
What's your claim to fame?
Well, okay, so I am still the only person in the world who has spawned and successfully reared the orange spot filefish, Oxymanocanthus longirostrus. That's an obligate corallivore, and it kind of had by the 2000s, people had said it's a fish we should leave in the ocean. I love Bob Fenner calls it a cut flower. It's a fish that's harvested. It looks pretty. You look at it for a couple weeks, it withers away and dies. It's the perfect metaphor. And I had gotten to the point where I was already keeping mandarin dragonets and spawning those and getting some success. And then Iris Bunich in Germany bred the bristletail filefish, the Aptasia eating filefish. And that just was like eye-opening to me. And I went out looking for that fish. Couldn't find it here in the U.S., but stumbled across some orange spotted files at a store. Talked to my wife a bit, and long story short, ended up pursuing that. And I think it took maybe a year and a half, 2 years to actually accomplish that. And I definitely got lucky. See, kind of with that, I literally on my mantle, sitting right above me on my desk is my Masna Award from 2009, which is at the time it was the Marine Aquarist of the Year, and now it's the Masna Award. They just renamed it, but it's this big glassfish trophy. I still feel that I am one of the least qualified among the recipients who've received that award. I actually tried to turn it down when they gave it to me and said, there's this other guy who deserves it more, and that was Dr. Wittenrich. And they said, Matt's time will come, maybe this is your year. And okay. And the next year I got to introduce Wittenrich, who also has received that award. So that was actually more of an honor to me than having that myself. But that's kind of what I consider, that's a boyhood dream realized, was breeding something that no one had ever done. And it just happened to be that particular fish. It could have been anything that no one had done. I think that's when you are an aquarist long enough, you're looking for a challenge. We are all amateur scientists. We give so much back with the basement experiments we do to crack the husbandry code of a species, and it happens. So we just published Breeding the Blue-eyed Placo, the first photographically documented case of actually producing that fish. There is still many freshwater fish that have never been spawned and reared in captivity, and there are still many that maybe they're only done on large-scale farms with the use of hormone aids, but it's still it could still be an incredible accomplishment if someone figures out how to do it in a home aquarium setting.
In a natural way.
Yeah, so for me, being primarily a fish guy, those are the stories I like to tell. Those are the stories I like to... anytime anyone's breeding a marine fish and they're doing something no one's ever done, I'm always just plugging like, hey, I want that for coral. As soon as it's ready, I want to put it in coral, because people love to hear about those triumphs and those breakthroughs. It doesn't matter what side of the halocline it's on. So the other thing I'm known for is the lightning maroon clownfish. That's the other thing that has come out of my marine fish breeding, and that's a whole nother topic all in and of itself. It's basically a wild fish that was discovered in Papua New Guinea. I'm really shortening the story here. It's a clownfish. It's not going to be hard to breed in theory, but we don't know if it's genetic and all these other things. Well, it is genetic, and now lightning clowns are all over the place, and they all literally are descended from the wild fish that's still living here in Duluth, Minnesota.
That's fantastic.
That is fantastic.
Before we go on, we just have to, congratulate you. That is a wonderful accomplishment, and we love, weird flexes like that on this podcast. You definitely deserve some credit there. So don't turn down the trophy, man. That's all we're saying.
Yeah.
Take it when you get it, because you earned that one. To get on some of the hard questions, right? So,
okay.
Anytime you talk to a news outlet or something that has a publication, like we had the Minnesota DNR on the podcast and had one of the managers, and we gave her grief. We did not ask the easy questions.
We hammered on her.
We'll go easier on you, but
she would not tell me.
You don't need to go easy on me.
What's your most controversial article that's ever been published while you've been there?
I think it's not really an article; it's the entire issue, the man-made fishes issue.
I knew it was that
earlier. Yeah, I mean, we just kind of looked at it and said, it's time. It's time to have this discussion. It's time to put it back to people. I mean, and even for me, it goes back to being a marine fish breeder. Picasso Percula. I think most people who have a passing awareness of the clownfish world, I mean, the clownfish are the guppies of the marine aquarium world. Picasso Percula is basically just a fish with aberrant, unusual stripes that swirl and connect and do all these different things. And I remember in about 2006, I was so infuriated. I know I went on record saying that the Picasso Percula was going to be the death of the three-striped clownfish. And then I got to know a whole lot more about clownfish genetics, diversity, biogeography, the origins of where these fish came from, and that knowledge just fundamentally changed my viewpoints on all of this. My work as an orchid breeder really gave me this totally different perspective on hybridization, because the entire industry thrives off of hybrids, but it also conserves all the species because they are the building blocks of the hybrids. There are all these tangential things that, for me, again, I'm only speaking for myself, that I felt, hey, we are so vehemently opposed to some of these things, but we're hardwired. It's just an ingrained ethic, but it causes all this division and hatred between aquarists who may not share our particular aesthetic appreciations. And so the guy who's keeping flower horns and the guy who's worried about Victorian cichlids shouldn't necessarily have to be butting heads against each other. There's room for both. And I think that viewpoint only comes from being an aquarist for a long time and having that depth of knowledge that just you don't have the first time you get a fish tank. That issue we knew it was going to be controversial. Each one of the senior editors, including Anne, published their own viewpoints. None of us had read each other's before seeing them in print. Or actually, I think I got to read everyone's because I proofed it.
Cheater.
We wrote all. Well, it's my job.
That's his job.
So
he's a cop.
They had all been written, so it was just making sure that everyone used the right punctuation. So that was intentionally meant to be not, I don't want to say a divisive issue. We knew it was going to get a certain amount of feedback. And I know we had a couple people say, we are canceling our subscriptions. We're never subscribing to your magazine. Okay. All right.
Exactly. You're not going to be able to please everybody.
I really think that this topic is everybody's as a content creator in the aquarium world. That you don't touch it, and if you do, shame on you. We get so many people that come from different YouTubers and even other podcasts, and they continue to ask us, "How do you feel about this?" And they're trying to angle the question in some way. Like, so instead of this, I'm going to answer this question first and foremost when we're talking with our listeners, and we just do it head on. We talk about each type of man-made, fish. There's the, genetically done glowfish. There's the injected. There's the dyed and tattooed. We go through them all, and there's no shame in talking about it. People need to know that they're out there so they can make an educated decision and know what it does to the creature.
And the other thing that, as much as most people are either hot or cold on this stuff. And at least, like with the glowfish, let's use that real quick. It brings people into the hobby who probably weren't interested in the hobby in the first place, like, young kids because of the bright colors and whatnot. So they do glowfish for a little while, and all of a sudden they find a pair of black convicts, and then pretty soon they're breeding fish, and pretty soon they've got 30 tanks. And that's what we want. We want people to get in the hobby. I'm old school. I want people to have 30 tanks in their basement as a start, and then grow from there. So how many tanks are you running at your house? Or do you have a facility?
Well, so my fish room is in my basement. So I have just a couple tanks upstairs. If everything is up and running, which it isn't right now, there's about 2,000 gallons of capacity.
That's a nice start.
You'll get there someday. We'll work with you.
No. We're only running right now about 25, 30 tanks in our basement. I had 600 tanks at one time, and it all depends on your level of insanity. And
and responsibilities. I have 2 magazines to
and energy and time.
And kids, and I have 2 kids that are one's 6 and one's 9, and
oh Lord,
So I don't have. I think there's maybe a dozen freshwater tanks running right now, a couple saltwater systems, a couple standalones. I have a lot of vivarium plants as well now, and dart frogs. All these hobbies are kind of interconnected. I look at keeping a poison dart frog is just the terrestrial reef tank or the terrestrial version of a planted tank. It's just there's no water. That's all.
Yeah.
So all these interests that I have had over the years, they all are related. Basically, I'm always redoing things and reworking things, but I don't have the time I had 10 years ago. So projects don't happen as quickly as they used to, and I think everyone who's been a parent can probably appreciate that.
Does anyone in your family have as much interest in it as you?
No.
Because I'm very lucky. My wife has a great interest in it, and she has her own tank upstairs with discus, and
Nice.
I have shrimp tanks downstairs and angelfish and whatnot. And it's nice to have that camaraderie when we're doing water changes and smacking each other with a hose, stuff like that.
Be nice,
Well,
all right?
It's funny because my wife, who wasn't my wife at the time, I was in between professional jobs as a software developer. I was kind of looking for the right one and wasn't getting the interviews I wanted. And she found a job posting at a local fish store and said, "Hey, why don't you apply for that?" And okay, sure, yeah. I had done that in my teens and early 20s, and I think that was pretty much the one year in my life. I know I say I've been an aquarist for 37 years, but I think I had like 2 years where I didn't have an aquarium at home. I had one in the office I had been working at, but when we parted ways, the aquarium stayed there. So there was this brief period of about 6 months where I was not taking care of an aquarium. Then I got this job, and my wife said, it would be nice to maybe have a pair of clownfish. Oh, yeah, I could do that. And brought home the tank, set it up for her, and that was great. And then another tank and another tank. And she claims now that she never asked for that pair of clownfish.
Yeah, women are liars.
Yeah.
I'll go with that.
I'm not saying that. She just
Smooth.
I was just trying to get him in trouble.
She's going to listen into this.
No, she's not. She's got
gonna
better
have
things
to
to do with her time than listen to us. I tell you that much.
Renee is an incredible partner who's very supportive and
Good cover.
Look, now you're making him cover his tracks.
Wow.
Oh, boy.
No, tolerant. She tolerates it. She'd prefer that there was less. So, but she understands it's my job. It's who would buy or want to buy an aquarium magazine that's not put together and published
Exactly.
by experienced aquarists. It's just that simple. So I better be keeping fish, and I better be invested and involved. Otherwise, anything I do, I have nothing to contribute. So, yeah.
And like I've said many times on this podcast, sometimes it's easier to apologize than to get permission.
That's how I go around this.
Smooth.
My dad used to say that all the time when he'd come home with a new boat or something,
I'll use that next time.
There you go.
I'm going to get a boat now. So another big question is you told us the most controversial issue. So, what's the most popular issue? Number one bestseller you've ever sold?
I don't have those numbers in front of me.
No? Not on the top of your
I
head?
was-
How about feedback?
What
was the best
I can
feedback?
tell you
you got?
that I can tell you that Angels Rising is probably one of the ones that's most in demand. Our first issue is one that's popular. There's also see, you guys all think you might have complete libraries, but there's also the prototype edition, which none of you have. I'll just leave that out there.
Whoa! Now you're going to have people calling you.
Great.
It
Call
does
Matt
say
at 1-800.
I have one copy. I don't have another one to offer. So I think there were 100 of them produced. So if someone is into collecting,
Go to aquaswap.com where he's going to start the bidding at $10,000.
$1 million.
so no, I think the Angels Rising, the beta issues, and again, I don't mean to pull those up because they're near and dear to my heart and the things that I had in them. I also know that they're just popular fish. So of course those topics are going to grab someone. Whereas putting African soda lake cichlids on the cover, that's a more arcane type of fish to talk about, and that's not going to grab the interest of people. That's the equivalent of the Gorgonian issue, where you look at it and say, I'll just put that on the shelf, and then 5 years later you're like, I got these at an auction. What are they? Oh, Amazonas. Oh, boom, and now it's relevant. I'd hope that people start to appreciate when they get a feature like. I also hope there's something in every issue for everyone. Not everyone's going to be into African soda lake cichlids. I don't expect them to be.
I mean, even issues that I haven't necessarily immediately found the need in, there's been a wealth of knowledge of just the sources that you guys have in each issue, showing where you get this content from, is enough where I can spend days on an issue just looking into their content. So it definitely leads you into new areas, even like the sub-articles or even the featured fish in the back of the episode. There's always something in every issue.
I totally agree. There are so many good things in these things that. Have you guys ever thought about doing like local breeders in the U.S. that do particular items? We've had so many great people on this podcast. We've been very, very blessed with different people. Steve Rubicki was on from Angels Plus. We've had Jim Kitchen, the Plico King on. Have you guys ever thought about doing an issue on just local U.S.?
Well, as it kind of goes back to what I mentioned from the start, which is we start out with a German issue that we've paid for. Mm-hmm. So you have
gotta
the
write it,
team
Jimmy.
in Germany. Well, you got to write it and send it to Germany first. No, I'm kidding.
I will, and then I'll put a picture on my cave wall, and I'll take a picture of that and send it to you.
We have had in the past, I know we've done at least a couple U.S.-based fish rooms. One of my really old friends, Mike Helford, I've been pestering him, especially since he built that new fish room, that I want to get down there. I want to see it. I have a feeling it's something that I would personally pursue to put in the magazine. There's so many great aquarists out there that I don't think we could ever feature all of them. So I would hate to pick and choose, but it's not a bad idea. There's really no bad ideas. I mean, to come right down to it, because it's such a vast hobby. So I like it.
The bigger one to ask you is, out of all the articles that you can remember at the top of your head, there's a ton that's been going through. But every news magazine, any news warehouse company, they want to be able to make an impact, really bring a story to attention, to change the thoughts of their listeners or readers. And out of those, can you pick one of your favorites that the article either changed the perception or did something for conservation or really impacted the hobby, bar none, compared to some of the rest?
I would say our past coverage of Belomonte and the Rio Xingu has been really important to keeping that in front of people. So like the article Chaos in Black and White is still, that's one where we took, and I believe we excerpted it from the magazine and put it onto the website so it was free to access. Because we, in addition to the 2-month cycle of content, we also have all the online content, which is, basically blog-based content, and it might be news items. Right now there's a huge problem with the aquarium fishery in Hawaii. It's been shuttered for 2 years. So that's a coral related issue, but yeah, the Chaos in Black and White stands out, thinking about it for 30 seconds, and the issues around Belomonte. And I don't want to go back to an article we've already talked about, but that whole man-made fishes issue was put out there to really provoke thought and provoke discussion. And I feel really strongly in my own perspective. And so I wanted to put that on the table and say, hey, maybe there's room for both here. And it's been a problem in the marine fish breeding world, and that's just starting to be a thing. And if we can't get breeders there to see the bigger picture, where are we going to end up? So it's important to put out ideas that maybe people haven't thought of or might initially be averse to. But even our coverage of Project Piaba over the years, those issues are always in the back of our mind. I mean, I was really excited when I found out that Seagrass was distributing Piaba fish. And I was like, I want to get those. Efforts like that go a long way to helping a community that's another continent away, preserving rainforests. Those are important things that we try to bring back to our readers. But even just putting the biodiversity of like having a killifish feature and reminding people the killies that are out there, or talking about rainbow fish. I mean, some of these fishes could easily just be gone in the blink of an eye. And some of that content doesn't make it into the magazine because it's online. We can only put so much in 100 pages. And sometimes it's newsworthy, so it's more important to get it out quickly, which is where we'll use social media and our blogs, our email newsletter, which has not been as routine as I'd like it to be, and that falls on me. Cover those issues all the time. We just had a lot of coverage about the ALA convention, the recent donations that were made by the Goodyear work group, and some of their fundraising efforts. I'm trying to think what else we got going. Well, I'll let you ask another question. If something else jumps up, I'll bring it up. But
sounds great. I know one of the big things that always kept me to the magazine and that brought a little wonder that I really didn't get elsewhere is online. There's a bunch of misinformation, and generally aquarists try to, at least a select bunch of them, try to keep their insider secrets. And it really does harm the hobby. I know we did a big podcast about the shrimp hobby. That's only been started since the mid-90s. And there's still a lot of misinformation. You can't even go to a Wikipedia page to get basic facts of care just because it's so still locked down and shadow and secrecy. You guys don't cover up anything. Everything's really there from the perspective of the interviewee. And above all else, you're bringing new fish to light. Most people, they'll hear about, this fish was discovered 4 years ago. There's no other place that I can think of to really publicate on a broad scale. This, you guys won't believe this. This cool species was found. Here's how it was found. Here's what we know about them, and here are what researchers are trying to find out. And it just brought more wonder to a hobby that, in my perspective, because I'm only 30 years old, really was already discovered within the last few decades. There's still new species. There's still new things to learn. Just from you saying that you're one of the few people or the only person in the world to breed a certain species of fish just shows the untapped potential, and Amazonas really does a great job of covering that.
If you get bored keeping aquariums over the long haul, you're not doing something right. There is so much to do that no aquarist could ever do it all. I mean, my weakest link as an aquarist right now is freshwater planted keeping. I have not figured that out yet. And the whole aquascaping genre, to me, I know what it represents and I know what it is, but in my personal aquarium keeping, the few attempts I've made, I've just gone down in flames. It takes time to master things. But more to your point, I was reminded of the volcano bitterling story that we just ran. And I want to say that was in the November-December issue. I mean, that's a brand new species. People
Spoiler alert.
Well, no, that one's already out. That one's already that one's out.
Oh, okay.
That was a good article.
Yeah, I mean, and that one is, I don't think he talks. He doesn't say that here's how you breed them, because I don't think we know yet. So we have ideas on how we could approach this species, but then again, how many people have even heard of a bitterling before? I mean, it's just such a vast hobby that you should never run out of things that are new or interesting to you. And that's kind of where the club scene still has, I think, merit is, with the BAP programs that encourages people to try new fish and encourages through friendly competition to specialize in something or to go to the next level or try something else. It keeps people engaged in the hobby. There are those fish that you'll love the moment you find them, and you'll never let go of that love. And there are fish that you'll keep and enjoy, and I'm kind of tired of these, and pass them on to the next hobbyist, try something new. I think that the hobby, by and large, accepts that, especially because we have things like fish auctions where diehard hobbyists can exchange their animals to other people who are presumably, if you're at a fish auction, you're at least somewhat aware of what's going on and interested, and you're not just walking it off the street. You have to have been doing it a few years to know that there's such a thing in the first place. That's kind of my take. And the magazine is just an outlet to encourage that and to keep you engaged and excited and to expose you to new things, new ideas.
So I can't let anybody leave the podcast that has some sort of business, company, or product without trying to milk some insider secrets from you. So, in the future, you've been to the company since the first, English publications. So
Yes.
What changes are coming, and is there any, spoilers you can give us? Not necessarily content or upcoming issues, but maybe how the magazine's changing.
No, there is nothing I can
No
share with you.
leaks? Come on, man.
The magazine's
I was
perfect. Get off his back.
I was hopeful. There is something coming. I was hopeful I could talk about it. I can't. I just know it's coming. I just know it was a good investment. Our readers will be happy. No one's going to complain. I would
Free
I would just
Amazonas
say,
for everybody. Yeah.
So how about this,
well,
right?
No,
Go halvesies
yeah,
with
so-
me, right? You can't talk about what it is, but can you talk about when we're going to know?
Oh, that's
I'm sorry.
nice.
What was that?
You can't tell us what it is, but can you talk about when we're going to find out?
No.
Dad,
No,
come
I would
on.
love to.
Wow.
It's probably not going to happen until 2020. Portions of
Which
this
is like
project,
3 days away.
Right, we're not that far.
So I'm pretty wide open there. 2020 is a full year.
Yes, it is.
So no, I could say that portions of what we've been working on have been completed, but other portions that we're working on are still being nailed down. And my part of this project is largely done.
Of
so
course
I know
it is.
that I know that it's coming. I just don't know when.
All right, so we have to rule out that it's not something in Flash. So that's over.
Yeah, you can rule that out.
So you're talking about all the freshwater tanks and stuff. We had the opportunity last week. Robbie and Adam and I went and got to see a saltwater tank, and we did a whole podcast on that, which is coming up here in a few weeks.
That was a
And
mixed reef tank.
mixed reef
Okay.
tanks
Over 700 species of coral.
in a 2,000-gallon tank. And
Okay.
we went over there, and it's actually not that far from you.
No, don't give me don't
no.
give too many spoilers.
No,
He
not-
didn't give us a
That's-
spoiler.
You know what? I'm
Come
just
on,
gonna-
man.
I'm
It's
just
only
gonna-
fair.
And this guy was so gracious to invite us into his home, a beautiful home, and we go over there, and he takes his water test and sends them to Germany. What is it with Germany?
Yes.
That's what I want to know.
That's what you got to ask.
Well, no,
Everything
no,
with aquarium is Germany.
He sends
That's-
water tests every 2 weeks to Germany for this 2,000-gallon tank.
Well, yeah, when you're at that scale and that economy, it makes sense, and that's a subscription service. And there are ICP tests now in the U.S., which should cost a little less, but they offer different things. But I think as a reef keeper, my most successful reefs have been low tech, low maintenance, and generally on the smaller side, because it stems from the freshwater world, where generally speaking, water changes are your reset, and they're easy and cheap to do. And as long as you can deal with that, you can be a very successful aquarist with little other technology involved. My best reef tank right now is a 1.25 gallon apothecary vase that sits in my front entryway. It's stunning. Everything is growing fantastically. All I do is a 100% water change, and it's circulated by nothing more than a rigid air line, and has the most technologically advanced part of that setup is the PAR 38 LED light and the Cobalt slimline heater, and then the Finex heater controller, which controls the heater because it's a 1.25 gallon volume of water. And we live in Duluth, Minnesota. When I open the front door, it's 0 degrees or -5 right now. And all that air hits this 1.25 gallon of water. The heater better keep up and also better shut off when I want it to. So the heating is the most expensive part of this whole setup. And the corals have been growing. I have Poecilolepora that spawned all over the tank multiple times. So we have coral babies growing in the tank in 1.25 gallons of water. It's literally a goldfish bowl of coral reef. And it's probably the most successful, easiest tank I've ever kept. But it is never going to be the same impression that a well-established, grown-out 2,000-gallon reef tank with hundreds of fish is going to be. It's just different extremes of the spectrum.
I got a feeling
I
that
can't
that's going to be a blog.
the 2,000-gallon reef tank. So
Yeah, you know how some people make it look really easy? This looked really hard, and it was. I mean, we sat there and questioned this gentleman, and we'll have more about it in a future podcast. And he was so sweet and so nice, and gave us all the information we wanted. We're just doing the math in our head about what he spends just on maintenance in a month, and it just blew my mind. It's unbelievable.
I believe it.
Gotta love the hobby.
Yep.
So no, we need to see that article on reef tanks for a $1 on a budget for a 1 gallon reef tank on the next magazine.
We have a whole coral magazine issue devoted to that. It's
already done, Robbie.
Pico reefs.
Well, we got to go buy the issue then.
Yeah, let me see here. I'm just looking at my shelf.
See the shelf.
If you borrow it to him, you might want to make him sign a contract. You get it back.
It's volume 15, number 1, Micro Reefs
There you go.
of Coral Magazine. You know, my vase reef goes back to Maritza, who is the original Vase Reef. Her reef tank has been running for like 7 years or 6 years now in a very similar size setting. And I basically just followed the recipe she gave. And it's the recipe we outlined in the magazine. And I think my setup, excluding animals, probably cost me maybe $100.
Wow.
It was just not that.
That is
super simple. You can mix up. I remember back when I was in my teens, I was limited. My parents did not let me take over the whole house with aquariums, or I would have. But I was working in the pet trade, working for full line pet stores, and then later aquarium specialty stores. Back then, my most successful reef tank was, again, it was a 12-gallon tank that held 6 gallons of water when it was all said and done. And I just literally kept the water changes sitting and mixed up the salt water in gallon milk jugs and just threw them in the front entryway hall closet. And then once a week, I did a 1-gallon water change on 6 gallons of water, so a little less than 20%. And I just did it every week. That tank was fantastic. So sometimes we used to tell you need a big tank because it's more stable, changes happen slower. And that's true, but I think we're to the point where we understand what corals need now, that maybe and our equipment's better, maybe we can get away. A 10-gallon reef tank is a very reasonable prospect. And water changes, when you're sending off your salt water to a lab in Germany to be tested, part of it is because when you're doing a 20% water change, or even a 10% water change, a 10% water change on a 2,000-gallon aquarium, so that's 200 gallons. That's $100 of salt if you're using a high-end salt. That's $100 to do a water change. If I told you to do a 10% water change every week on a 2,000-gallon reef tank, you're spending $400 a month just on salt. So it becomes the economies of scale change, and it's cheaper to test and dose what's needed and to conserve your water. On a small tank, it makes no sense, at least to me. It's easier to just stick with something you're familiar with. Match the salinity, match the temperature, do the water change, you're good. So it works very well.
And for a lot of freshwater people, that's just the natural progression of the hobby is to try to go and do something a little bit different with saltwater. And so if you've not tried saltwater, that would be a perfect time to do it. What Matt just said is just get yourself a smaller aquarium and just start small and don't spend a bunch of money. Don't go out and buy a 150-gallon tank and spend $1,500 and then fail.
So I have something to branch off of this, right? Matt, hear my pitch. So you have this great saltwater magazine. You have a fantastic freshwater magazine. We need to make like a hobo, newspaper on brackish tanks. That's what we need to do. You and me, bro. We'll do it together. We'll make a publication once every 2 months.
We will run out of content very quickly.
What?
Yeah.
Oh,
Black Mollies. There we go.
Black Mollies.
We had some coverage on archers recently. I'm actually a big fan of archerfish. That's been another one that I've been kind of eyeing to try to breed. I know they've been done, but rather sporadically, and there's not a lot of information out there. And so I've actually been working for a while to just keep some archerfish around and see if I can get them spawning, because being where they live, like Mono seabae and Mono argenteus, those fish, we think of them as brackish fish, and we know they can kind of tolerate freshwater, but they actually have a saltwater component to their adult life cycle. They are actually saltwater fish. They spawn and breed like a lot of pelagic spawning saltwater fish, because they are. So looking at archerfish, I'm like, they're going to maybe be a little more like those fish. I have the marine fish breeding background. I've successfully reared like 10 species, I think, at this point. I've spawned 30 or so. And so I've kind of been looking at some of these fish that maybe I can apply saltwater knowledge to what we do with them and see if we can crack it or do better. So archerfish have kind of a quiet, silent obsession of mine.
Don't feel bad. It's on a lot. We actually did an upcoming episode about brackish, and if you haven't tried them, put some mangrove wood above and watch them shoot a cricket. Best fish you can ever get.
Yeah. They're fantastic, and they're very personable too. I find my archers know who I am. They know, they're pets. They're more than just fish that just kind of school around. They're certainly engaged.
Well, Matt, we appreciate you having on. Is there anything you felt we missed that you want to tell us about?
No, I'll share with everyone that I'm trying to pester both my partners and Anne to find time to come on and share their experiences and viewpoints with you guys. And I really appreciate you guys taking the time to ask me to come on and ramble about myself.
We love it, and we'd love to make this a series to really get perspective from your team, editors or interviewers. Or there's a lot of experience that comes out of your magazine that I think really just would love to go in the background of, give a better perspective of the people that write the magazine. So, Jimmy, do you have any other questions?
Did I have any other questions? Do you ever get to travel much for work, Matt? I mean, do they send you to exotic lands like
Hawaii,
South Dakota?
South Dakota.
I will be in Green Bay, Wisconsin next summer.
Ooh,
In July.
Wear your Viking shirt.
I believe I will probably be at MACNA in Arizona next fall. Most of my travel is self-funded, or if I'm invited out to speak somewhere. Someone like Mike Tuccinardi has done a lot of travel for the aquarium industry on his own dime and written about it. Generally speaking, pretty much stuck here. My wife is a school teacher. Travel opportunities are limited. She doesn't know exactly what I was contemplating, but I was looking at a South America trip to surprise her with next year until I saw the expense. Yeah. Publishing magazines is not a get-rich-quick scheme. So we will not be traveling to South America.
So how about South Dakota? That's pretty close and probably
I got
cheaper.
no issue. I'm happy to come to South Dakota.
That's it. We're going to have to drag you to Aquashella. That's what we're going to have to do. Be our bucket list. We'll party there together.
When Aquatic Experience was in Chicago, my family's originally from Chicago, and I'm from Chicago. So I'm always looking at the Chicago events because I can go crash with my parents, or at least hang out at their house, whether they're there or not. It's an 8-hour drive to get to Chicago. I still know my way around, so I always keep an eye on the Chicago events to see which ones I can make. Generally speaking, I'm happy to drive to speak at clubs that are in the upper Midwest here, because I know how hard it is to get speakers, especially clubs that want to have a speaker every month. That getting a speaker to Duluth, Minnesota, maybe once a year is a challenge. So to have a club where you're bringing in someone every month, the financial aspects of that pretty demanding on a club. So I will generally happily show up, represent Amazonas, represent my other business, and represent Coral. Share my passion for what I do with Aquarius in the room. Beyond that, I'm trying to think what else is going on. It was on the tip of my tongue, but I forgot about it.
I've got a quick.
Forgot about it.
Well, no, you didn't forget about it. It's a secret, and it's going to start 2020. You heard it here first. Something big's happening.
Oh, there is. I can't say. I cannot say.
Oh, come on.
Maybe
Just give us a little tease. Come on, man.
Whisper it.
Nobody if I could
listens.
ask you guys, in all seriousness, since you will be editing this,
I will be.
I will tell you in confidence and say that you cannot put this out.
All they're going to hear is a bunch of ducks right now. That's what's going to happen.
until I've cleared it. But there will be, I believe the contracts are signed. There will be the Marine Breeders Workshop will be held in the Twin Cities in 2020.
Nice.
So we've been holding that. We've been holding that for 10 years, Detroit, Michigan area. It was founded by Tal Sweet and the team at the Marine Life Aquarium MASM. Tal has been running it for 10 years, and he said, I still want to be involved, but maybe I need to step back a little bit from being the head guy. I will gladly come back on and say more about that if you would like me to, once it's public. But I believe it's signed. It's a done deal. It's happening. That will be in July. Don't have the date in front of me, but that is. I can't say where it's going to be held yet either, but it's going to be
Mall of
held
America,
in a very
Hey, that's okay.
No. Nope, not. I could say it's not Mall of America.
There we go.
Minnesota.
It's going to be.
Petco.
It's going to be held in the Twin Cities at a very fantastic facility, not in the Mall of America.
Petco.
No, not at a Petco either. It's not going to. So you can whittle down as much as you want, but so
we appreciate the
generally
info.
This event tends to draw people from the scientific community, the public aquarium community, and private aquarists like myself who breed marine fish. It draws 50 to 100 people, depending on the year. But like a lot of times, the discussion of the first captive bred yellow tangs, or someone breeding a butterfly fish for the first time. Those people are sitting in that room. The people who've done that are there. Martin Moe, he's been to a few of them. Anyone who's been around the saltwater aquarium hobby long enough knows who Martin Moe is. You don't get to sit in a room with 50 people or 100 people next to Martin Moe with 10 minutes to bend his ear between the talk in any other setting. We talked about it at great length, and I had always told Tal, since I had helped promote it and obviously have a vested interest in it, that if he ever wanted to step back from it, I would be willing to help. Possibly bring it to Duluth. Through some people talking and discussions, we decided we actually had a really good opportunity to hold this event in the Twin Cities. I will talk to Tal, make sure I can have you guys put that out on the 26th. You might not be able to, but it will be coming. And at some point, I'll be able to talk very freely and openly about it. I would say that this is an event that if you are anywhere in the region and have any interest in fish breeding in general, I still remember being told breeding clownfish was impossible. And that whole, that's why freshwater and saltwater, that spillover of interest in breeding is just a natural fit. To be able to come to the Twin Cities to an event like this in our region is fantastic. I hope that Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin, the Dakotas, Illinois, I hope we put on a really good showing and really represented this event, because it's going to be a really exciting event this year. So,
well,
I'm going.
For those of you that just listen to that, it's either you heard him and his super secret thing that he just told us about, or you heard some terrible sound effect that Mr. Pickles clipped of me in Discord. So if you heard the thing Mr. Pickles clipped of me in Discord, you know it's confidential, and whatever it is going to be in 2020, and we appreciate having you on, Matt. We really, really do. And go to AmazonasMagazine.com. Be sure to subscribe to this magazine. You can purchase a year up front. 3 years is a better deal. You can buy it for a friend, and even purchase their intense library of back issues all the way to the beginning for the English edition at $10 a pop. Certainly give them a look-see. They have a free issue. You can go right on their website and try to see how you like the format. Wealth of knowledge, even if you, like you said before, even if it's not necessarily your article, you're going to use it. There's going to be pieces in there that you're going to love. It's a fantastic magazine. Certainly subscribe.
And what a great Christmas gift. What a great birthday gift. What a great anniversary gift.
Oh, you just bought that from me, Jimmy?
No, we don't have an anniversary, Robs, because we're not doing it.
But Dad,
no, we're not.
I really want Amazonas Magazine that isn't just digital.
Yeah. No, you can read my digital copy.
Fine. All right. Well, thanks again, guys, and make sure to subscribe and on the podcast app, if you're using Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, Apple Podcasts, make sure it automatically downloads. It saves directly to your phone, so you don't have to worry about being in a out of signal area, and it helps our numbers and supports our podcast. So thanks again for all your support, and we shall see you on the next podcast.
Thanks, guys, for listening to this podcast. Please visit us at aquariumguyspodcast.com and listen to us on Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and anywhere you can listen to podcasts.
We're practically everywhere. We're on Google. I mean, just go to your favorite place. Pocket Casts. Subscribe to make sure it gets push notifications directly to your phone. Otherwise, Jim will be crying into sleep.
Can I listen to it in my treehouse?
In your treehouse, in your fish room, even alone at work.
What about at my man cave?
Especially your man cave.
Yeah.
Only if Adam's there.
No.
With feeder guppies.
No.
They're endless.
You midget-loving, sucking motherfucker.
Well, I guess we'll see you next time. Later.